Welcome, Warriors. We're back with another show and an episode of Bigger Warriors 2, the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing great today. I'm going to try to do one every morning. We'll call it the Morning Talk. And we're going to do that today. And there's a couple different issues that I wanted to kind of go into on this one. First, thank you again for all the subscriptions, comments, likes. Now let me focus on the comments for a second, because not every comment that is coming through the channel is going to be positive, and that's fine. I understand that. I was prepared for that when we started doing these things, and so not everybody's going to like what we're talking about, and I'm not going to say that I'm an expert in all things as well. I think that I am learning. My major goal for the channel right at the beginning, and it hasn't changed, is to provide information for those who need some inspiration, some help, things that I went through and I didn't have as much of when I was going through a lot of this stuff. And so I want to kind of provide that for people. Do I know everything? Of course not. Of course not. And I think that's one of the reasons why I want to have discussion and have people participate. So if you have great ideas of things that I'm saying that are not correct, please correct me. I mean, I'm happy to go through it. I think the main thing to me, and I'm going to move a little bit here. I think the main thing to me, we're 1 degree here, guys, so my steering wheel's a little bit cold. The main thing to me is the fact that we are talking about something that is wonderful. Having semen retention, having retention, and being able to control, have celibacy, those things, in my mind, and this is just my opinion, is the best thing that can happen to a man or woman. I think the key thing that you have to kind of understand is that, in my opinion at least, God gave us a temple as far as our body goes. And He does not want our temple to be disused or abused to the point where we're not really kind of getting the best out of it that we can. And that makes a lot of sense. So we look at types of things we're talking about here. We're looking at trying to say, okay, how can I actually benefit myself and work on trying to become the best person I can become? And when we say that, one of the things we have to look at is our energy. And nowadays, especially during these times we have here, there's a lot of people getting sick, a lot of things going on from a health standpoint. And this is why it's even more crucial to keep your energy. And so as we talk about these things, I realize that people, may not totally agree, and that's okay. I welcome people to kind of talk and to show ideas. But there's one thing that I know that no one's going to change my mind with, is the fact that this works. And I will believe that until my final day. And I think that's the kind of thing that we can talk about, different techniques and things. We all have a journey a different way. But the idea, guys, is try to figure out, okay, how can I get on this journey and stay on this journey? And that, to me, is the key to the whole situation. How can we use this to better myself and create good habits instead of bad habits? And the one thing that I will always say is that the society that we've lived in, to me, has taught me a lot of, I believe, incorrect things. And I believe that we need to kind of recognize and kind of wake up and enlighten ourselves a little bit to the point of saying, okay, what is something that we can change? How can we change this? How can we go ahead and change who we are? How can we live a life that's more fulfilling, more prosperous, more happy, more healthier, all these type of things? And a lot of it comes back to not a lot of things that are being told to us in society. And I think over years, people realize that, and they change some of the behaviors they do. And so retention is one of those things that we have to really be careful about, because for years people have been telling us, well, you should do this, and this is the way to be healthy, and all this other kind of stuff, and watching pictures and images and pornography and things like that. And to me, that is the worst thing you can do. After 574 days, 9 days, over 100 days, maybe 105, 104 days of monk mode, those type of things look at you and say, okay, now we have to kind of say, all right, how do we end up kind of staying away from this stuff and learning about the real truth in our society? And I think that's the whole key. The truth in our society, and maybe that's the topic I'll do some morning talk. The thing about this is that you really want to realize that the world that you're in is not the world that it seems to me. We always go back, because I like that movie, The Matrix. I go back to the blue matrix and the red matrix, and when people woke up, they realized that society was kind of conning them for a lot of reasons, right? We're talking about conning. We're talking about people making profit because you're buying products that you really don't need, and you're doing things and following fads and following this type of things you really don't need to have. And I think that part of that is really kind of looking at that and saying, okay, what is it that I'm going to do to become a stronger person? I'm not going to listen to a lot of this stuff that I see. And the truth of the matter is that you have to kind of research yourself and figure out what is really real for you and what's not. And retention is number one on that list to me. Everything to me comes down back from retention. When you're talking about saving your energy, keeping your energy, males or females, this is the foundation. Now, when it comes to being strong, and a lot of times I'm talking about the males in these because I am a male, but females also have a certain level of testosterone and estrogen and those type of things that obviously you want to make sure that you're using the best way possible to achieve the goals that you desire. And if you're sitting there and not going through processes that's going to help you, then all you're doing is hurting yourself. And then obviously you can hurt other people around you as well. And this is why we kind of talk about this on the channel, because we're not only looking about helping yourself, but as a consequence, you then have to watch out for other people. And you've got to look at other people to say, is this something that is really good for mankind as a whole, or is it something that's just hurting it? And I think when you're talking about porn, you're talking about all these addictions, we're talking about gambling, overeating, drugs, alcohol, all these type of things we know are not good. Now, we do them for a lot of self-centered reasons, and somehow we feel like we're missing something. But the fact of the matter is that those types of things are not good for us. And in a whole, it's not good for society. I mean, if I was a general in an army, and I'm sitting there looking at the people, some groups of people in the United States, I'm saying, man, these people, you can attack these people. A lot of these people are weak. They're weak-minded. They're weak in body. They have no energy. They get manipulated and distracted by all kinds of images and things like this. When you're talking about this type of thing, you get a whole country like that, well, that country is not going to be able to protect itself very well. And you're talking about other countries coming in and, hurting you and taking over because you're sitting there and you're not strong enough to defend yourself. And that goes back down to strength. And males and females, if we are not strong physically and mentally, then we're going to struggle. And we're going to struggle because you're not really the kind of human being God wants you to be. And this is why when you look at the history of the world, and you look at a lot of comparisons now that we see in parts of the United States and parts of the world right now, they're very similar to parts of what happened with the Roman Empire and Babylon and the Incas and the Mayas and any kind of dynasty you want to look at, who became so self-indulgent because they felt like they were God and they lost. I mean, it's a common thing, my friends. It's a common thing. So I'm not blaming anybody. These things happen in society because of the ebb and flow, in my opinion, of the belief in your Creator. Now, what happens, and this happens a lot, and this is not really true faith, in my opinion, but it happens a great deal. People believe, some people want to believe in God, they want to believe in and have faith in all these type of things, when things are bad, and so they continue talking with their God and until God helps them. But then they become prosperous, and then they forget about God. And they slowly get to the point of saying, okay, I have everything I need. I don't need to pray anymore. I don't need to follow the commandments anymore. And those are the types of things. And I'll be the first to admit that happened to me when I was younger, several times, when I made money. I forgot it. I wasn't as faithful to the Lord as I should have been. And I think that's the kind of thing that we want to kind of focus on and realize that no matter what point of life you're at. I remember Jim Taylor, a great football player for the Green Bay Packers, playing football. He used to, when he scored touchdowns, he used to say, I just give the ball back to the referee because it's almost like I've been there before. And that means that it's no big deal. You score a touchdown, you do all these crazy dances that people are doing nowadays in the end zones. It's ridiculous. Act like you've been there. And this is almost, I think it was a great poem. And I'm trying to remember who it is now, and I have it on top of my tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it. But looking at coin as failure and success is the same coin. Treat it the same way, right? And that's not Longfellow, but there's another person, I can't remember who it was, and I knew it, and I've said it before, but I can't remember. But the thing is that when you're looking at success and failure, you measure it the same way, my friends. You shouldn't be acting differently. Be grateful for the problems you have as well as the good things you have. And I think God will continue to reward you that way. But societies fall because they end up not realizing that God has given them all these blessings, and then they lose track of that. And because of temptation, because of their own greed and corruption and all these lascivious behaviors, empires fall. They fall from within before people take them over. Yes, eventually they're invaded. But what they had was they were taken within because people become weak. They become weak-minded and weak energy level. And that's why the 1% Club is one of these superpower, strong groups, because we know how important this is. And so as people look at this, yeah, of course, some people are going to say, go back to the lascivious behaviors. Nothing wrong with them. Well, sure, they're not going to want to do that because they enjoy it. And there's a pleasure part of these things, of course, which is why it's tempting. But in the long run, you're selling your soul out. And I think that's one of the things to keep in mind as you're doing these things. What is the long-term consequence of this, what you're doing? And we talk about retention. It is a sacrifice, there's no doubt. When you're basically saying that the only time I'm going to actually release is when I'm procreating, that's a tough choice. And I remember this Fountain of Youth book that I've talked about many times. When you look at this and you look at what it says in the sixth rite, they call it, the 5 are the exercises. The 6th one is an exercise, but it's also dealing with celibacy, keeping your energy inside, not having intercourse and sex, and letting your energy go. They talk about the fact that a person has to be ready for that. I, of course, was not ready for 40 years. I now am ready for it. I started a few years ago now, a couple years ago. Now I'm ready for it. Now, hopefully, as some of you your younger people in the viewing audience here, you guys are a lot better off than me, and recognize this early enough where you guys can have a long, prosperous life better, and be able to say, okay, I'm going to start now, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And that's all you can do. I mean, I had good streaks at times, week here, 2 weeks here, but I could never get to the point where I'm at now. And I think sometimes God puts you in those positions for certain reasons. And I think it's all in His plan. And a lot of us, I think, sometimes just have to recognize what His plan is. So, hope you guys have a great morning. This is our morning talk for today. This is the first week of January. And once again, I welcome all comments, guys, and go ahead and make comments. Whether you agree or disagree, that's fine. But the main thing that I'm hoping that you see is the benefits of retention and the fact that this can change your life. All right, guys, until next time, battle on!